What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC Vegas 105. We have Lerone Murphy going against Josh Emmett, and we are back in the Apex for a pretty solid fight night card. Looking forward to this one. We have 13 fights on the card. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Before we get into the picks, if you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. All three of those things are much appreciated. Do you want to shout out PrizePicks? This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. If you guys use code DFSBTN, you will get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Whether that lineup loses or wins, you'll get $50 instantly into your PrizePicks account. So use that code DFSBTN and get yourself some free money there. With all that out of the way, I say we get into it. We're going to start with the fight. Doesn't go to decision lines. Up top, we have Torres Finney going against Robert Valentin. We have minus 250 for the fight. Doesn't go the distance. And yeah, I think there's a good chance this fight does end inside the distance. For me personally, I'm really liking the Torres Finney side at 9,000. I think there's a lot of value on that salary there because I think he has, more upside than some of the fighters priced above him. Torres Finney's a guy that can go out there and literally get 10 plus takedowns if need be. This guy's actually averaging 10 takedowns over the course of his 3 Contender Series fights, which is crazy. 69% takedown accuracy, and he's going against somebody in Valentin who has just no takedown defense. So yeah, I think Finney for me, but yeah, Valentin is a tricky guy. Valentin has a tricky submission game. He has a lot of power on the feet. I kind of question the chin of Torres Finney, but yeah, for me, I'm more so going to be on the Finney side here in this one. Next fight, we have a very important fight to target, in my opinion. It is going to be the co-main event, Joe Anderson Brito going against Pat Sabatini. And the reason I think it's going to be so important is because it's one of those striker versus grappler matchups. And as we see, more often than not, these striker versus grappler matchups are going to score very well for the winner because it all comes down to who's going to be able to get their game plan going. With Joe Anderson Brito, his path to victory is probably a first round brutal knockout, and that's going to score very well. But with Pat Sabatini, he's 1,200 cheaper, and he has a path to wrestle. And we've seen Brito taken down. We've seen Brito controlled a little bit. Sabatini's a good wrestler, good control, sneaky submission game as well. So yeah, I think there's a case to be made for both fighters. This is a fight that I'm going to be very heavily invested in. I'm personally leaning the Brito side, but he's the more expensive guy. Sabatini is a dog. At 7,500, I think he makes a lot of sense this week as well. Next, we have a fight that I think is going to kind of go under the radar, a fight that I think is going to be kind of low-owned as a whole, which I think could be a potential mistake, and that's going to be Daniel Frunze going against Rhys McKee. And the reason I think it's going to go under-owned between the two combined is, Frunze is a newcomer, Contender Series guy, maybe people don't know much about him. And on the flip side, you have Rhys McKee, who has not won a fight yet in the UFC. He's 0-4. I think people are very low on Rhys McKee, and kind of rightfully so. But yeah, I feel like this fight is going to score very well. Both guys have good volume. Both guys are very hittable. I think the volume is going to really add up over the course of 15 minutes here, and there could potentially be a finish. Daniel Frunze has a lot of power, and Rhys McKee has a 100% finish rate as well. Between the 31 fights of these two, only one of these guys have won a decision. That's Frunze, and he has one decision only. So 31 fights, one decision win combined between the two. So there's a reason the fight doesn't go to decision sitting at minus 190. They think there's a good chance this fight can finish inside the distance, and I think it can, but I could also see this going the distance, and even so, I could see a big score for the winner here. So I'm more so on the Daniel Frunze side, but it's not a fight I have a strong read on. I'm not really high on either fighter, but from a DraftKings perspective, I think the winner scores pretty well here. And then we got Kennedy Nzechukwu going against Martin Buday. Yeah, for me, it's Kennedy or nothing here. I don't like Martin Buday in this matchup. I don't really like his style in general from a DraftKings perspective. Kennedy up at heavyweight, I think is going to have a lot of success. I think he's going to kind of run through a lot of these lower level heavyweights like the Chris Barnetts, like the Lucas Breskis, and probably the Martin Budays here. So I think Kennedy wins. I think he can win by knockout. Typically, Kennedy's more of a late finisher, but at heavyweight, he's been getting early finishes and having more urgency. So I wouldn't be shocked if Kennedy knocked out Buday in the first round, and for that reason, I do have some interest in him at 9,200. Getting into the core plays here. Up top, we got Diana Barbosa, 9,400. She is minus 1,100 on the money line here, and a big reason that is because she's going against Diana Belbita, who just has a huge hole in her game, which is the grappling. Diana Barbosa is a judo black belt, a BJJ black belt, and I think it's just only a matter of time before this fight hits the ground, and when it does, it's like a ground is lava type situation for Belbita, who's been submitted 5 times, including submission losses to Luana Jojua and Molly McCann. Just not great. So I think Barbosa eventually gets on top here, probably in the first round, and probably gets a first-round submission. So at 9,400, I think she's very much in play this week. Next, we got Luis Garule, 8,900. So I think it really has a style that can really score well on DraftKings. The style is just a lot of pace, a lot of pressure, a lot of volume, and I think is going to bring all those into this fight against Ode Osborne, who struggles with pace, pressure, volume, and I think skill for skill, these two are very close. Garule, not completely sold on the guy yet. He's making his debut. Osborne, I think he's actually skilled, but he lacks a couple things. He lacks cardio, heart, and durability. We've seen Ode Osborne finish like 5 or 6 times, and I think it could even be his 7th finish loss here if Garule is able to survive the early onslaught that Osborne's going to bring, start to take over and push a pace, and I can see him breaking Ode Osborne, who we've seen just broken so many times thus far in the UFC. So yeah, I don't mind Garule, but I think it's another fight that's going to score very well as a whole. But I'm liking Garule in this one, the newcomer. Then we got Daniel Frunze, 8,600. Like I said, I'm not excited about this fight really, but from a DraftKings perspective, I think it scores very well. Reese McKee is a walking punching bag. Reese McKee has a 42% strike and defense. Frunze, he can bring the volume, he can bring the pace, he can fight for 15 minutes if need be, and he also hits very hard. So it wouldn't shock me if Daniel Frunze either A, landed 150 significant strikes here on the face of Reese McKee, or B, potentially knocked out Reese McKee, who, yes, he's tough, but he's also very, very hittable. So my preferred side in the Frunze-McKee fight is the Frunze side, but like I said, I think it's a fight as a whole that could go under the radar. I think both guys will be low-owned here, and I think it can score very well. And then Finney, we talked about a little bit, 9,000, probably one of my favorite plays on the slate, salary, everything considered. This guy has potential to land, 10 takedowns if need be. Here, though, I don't think he's going to really need 10 takedowns against Robert Valentin, who, first of all, has no takedown defense, but once he does get taken down, that's probably the round for Finney or the fight, because Finney does have some vicious ground and pound. We've seen Valentin, kind of cover up and look for the door in the past. So, yeah, I think Finney's live to, go out there, get some takedowns, get some control, land some ground and pound, and eventually find a finish in the second or third round. So, yeah, liking Finney quite a bit. Moving on to the GPP plays here, we got Lerone Murphy, 9,300. A lot of plays I like up top. Murphy's another one of them, 9,300. 25 minutes to work with. If this was a 15-minute fight, I probably wouldn't have that much ownership of Murphy, but you have 25 minutes to work with. As we learned in the freaking Barbosa fight, this dude Murphy scored like 150 something in the Barbosa fight, just beat the brakes off of Barbosa for 25 minutes, and it wouldn't shock me if that happened here. He's going against Josh Emmett, who I think is getting Josh Emmett at the right time, 40 years old, off of a year layoff. I think Murphy can potentially just rack up a ton of volume here, potentially rack up takedowns here, and it wouldn't even shock me if he finished a 40-year-old Josh Emmett. So, yeah, I like Murphy here. I think is a great play. I think he has probably the first or second highest ceiling on the slate, probably the first since he has 25 minutes to work with. Next, we got Vanessa Demopoulos, 8,000. Yeah, I think this Demopoulos Alencar fight's a sneaky one to target because you take a look at it from both sides, right? With Alencar, you have the takedown upside, the early submission upside. But with Demopoulos, I kind of like her in this matchup in a sense that if Alencar does not get that first round sub, I kind of think she's in trouble. Alencar has about 5 minutes of cardio, and Demopoulos is somebody that can absolutely push a pace. She's going to have the striking advantage for the first time in her career here, and it wouldn't shock me if she finished a completely gassed out Alencar, in the second or third round. So I think, this is a solid fight to target as a whole as well, but I'm kind of leaning the Demopoulos side at 8,000 there. And then we talked about Kennedy a little bit. Yeah, this is a Kennedy spot for me. I think he's very safe. Like, Kennedy's like the one spot on the card. Like, if he lost the fight, I'd be very surprised. Kennedy's one of those guys that, he is inconsistent at times. He has dropped the ball at times. But, yeah, if Kennedy's losing this fight, there's just no reason for him to lose this fight. So I think he's safe, and not only do I think he's safe, but I think he goes out there and gets a knockout and scores well along the way. And then Joe Anderson Brito, 8,700. I think his path is a first or second round knockout, and that's obviously going to score very well at 8,700 there. The worry is The worry is Pat Sabatini taking him down, controlling him, maybe subbing him. Brito's going to have to do everything in his power to keep the fight upright, and if he can do that, if he can keep the fight upright, he's going to land that big shot. He's going to get the knockout. So yeah, Brito, very, very live to take off the head of Pat Sabatini in the first 10 minutes, I'd say. Moving on to the live dogs. A lot of live dogs this week. There's even some I couldn't even fit into the screen. I think a lot of live underdogs for UFC Vegas 105. Up top, we got Cortavius Romeus, 8,000 or 7,800. A lot of monies came in on Romeus in terms of the money line. He was plus 150 earlier in the week. He's now plus 115. And yeah, I think this fight could really go either way. But Romeus, for me, like, he's the much more dangerous guy. He's the much better striker. Much better BJJ. I think if there's a finish in this fight, it's much more likely it's going to be on the Romeus side. The worry about Romeus is the cardio. He does slow down as the fight goes on, but I think Chung Ho Lee is going to put himself in a lot of bad spots on the mat and on the feet. So I think Romeus is live for a finish early, but I could even see a situation where he wins a decision just based off of doing more damage. I see one of these guys doing damage, and that guy's Romeus, and he's the dog. So I don't mind some Cortavius Romeus here at 7,800. Davey Grant, 7,700, a guy that's always a live dog, a guy that is an underdog in general, more often than not, a guy that will fight for your money, a guy that's 39 years old, but still, looking good out there, tough as nails, never been knocked out. He's going against Daniel Santos, who's, much younger, but he's on like almost a 2-year layoff. I think Davey Grant can definitely compete here, and I think he's very live to win this fight. I'm kind of seeing this fight as 50-50, to be honest, and he's, 7,700 on DraftKings, so I like some Davey Grant. I think he could win by really any method, but kind of leaning a decision for Davey Grant. But yeah, knockout wouldn't shock me with how hard Davey Grant's hit as of late. And then Pat Sabatini, 7,500. And whether you think he gets knocked out or not, Pat Sabatini's path is wrestling, control time, potential submission. If Pat Sabatini wins this fight at 7,500, he's going to score a ton of points. So yeah, this is a very important fight to target. Pat Sabatini's a live dog, and his path is one that scores very well. And then Gerald Meerschaert, 7,100. Yeah, Meerschaert's always a dog, and he's always a live dog. No matter who he's fighting, he's one of those guys like Paul Craig. It doesn't matter what the matchup is. He could be fighting anybody in the division. All it takes is, one slip up from his opponent, one mistake, and Meerschaert's one of those guys that'll capitalize on those mistakes and get the win a lot of times. So he's going against Brad Tavares, who I think is getting Brad Tavares at the right time here. Tavares is 37 years old. He's been in a lot of wars. He's taken a lot of damage, and we can kind of see that. He seems to be slowing down, doesn't look the same, and it wouldn't shock me if Meerschaert went out there and got the win and got the finish as well, like he typically does. So I think Meerschaert at this price tag especially, 7,100, makes a lot of sense this week. I think it's way too cheap. And then punt plays, not a ton down low I like. Obviously, Meerschaert's cheap. You can consider him a punt. Other than that, it's Josh Emmett. Do I like his chances here? Not entirely, but the thing with Josh Emmett is, this guy has a ton of power, right? Some of the best power in the division, even at 40 years old. It's crazy. So yeah, the last thing to go is that power. We could potentially see him knock out Murphy. I think that's his path. I don't see Josh Emmett winning a decision. I think if he's winning this fight, he's catching Murphy, which it's entirely possible. So at 6,900, I don't think that Josh Emmett should be ignored, even though I really don't love his chances here. And then the fade is going to be Brad Tavares, 9,100. It's just tough to lay this. I don't care who he's fighting. Like, it's tough to lay 9,100 on Brad Tavares, who's not going to wrestle, who has one finish since like 2010. It's crazy. Could he finish Meerschaert? Maybe, but this guy couldn't finish 42-year-old Chris Weidman. So, yeah, I won't be touching Brad Tavares. If he knocks out Meerschaert, then it is what it is. But yeah, he's not going to wrestle. I don't think he's going to finish. Brad Tavares is a fade for me. And there you guys have it. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys could like on your way out, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys are liking for UFC Vegas 105. If you guys want more content from me, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. And yeah, best of luck for UFC Vegas 105. Should be a really good card. And then we got UFC 314 next week, which should be another really good card. So looking forward to that. And yeah, guys, we'll talk to you soon. See you later.